My Lords, I was introduced to the House barely a month ago, having recently taken up my post as Bishop of Chelmsford, that vast and wonderful diocese that covers the whole of Essex and East London. It's a privilege to serve this diocese, which is complex and diverse, full of opportunities as well as challenges. Today I want to express my thanks to everyone here who has offered me the warmest of welcomes. And I'm immensely grateful in particular for the help and support that I've received from staff and officials. My Lords, I have a deep and personal interest in the subject of this debate. Not only have I met with Richard Ratcliffe and followed the story of Nazanin over the years, but I come myself originally from Iran. Born and brought up there, I left as a teenager during the Islamic Revolution and following difficult and traumatic circumstances. I was born into a Christian household, my father having been a convert from Islam to Christianity from a small village in the centre of Iran. We were part of the tiny Anglican church in Iran, which when I was growing up during the 1970s was made up primarily of converts and second and third generation Christians. Our small community was hit hard when the revolution ushered in a period of unrest and chaos, and the church experienced a season of intense persecution. Properties were confiscated, financial assets frozen. One of our clergy was murdered in his study, and my father, who was by then bishop of the church, was briefly imprisoned before an attack on his life, which he survived, but in which my mother was injured. In May 1980, my 24-year-old brother had his car ambushed on his way home from work. Two men got in next to him, and after a brief conversation witnessed by passers-by, he was shot in the head and he died instantly. No arrests were ever made, no court case followed, no explanation offered for his murder. It was soon after this that I found myself in this country, originally with refugee status and eventually as a British citizen. My Lords, I have experienced firsthand the sting of injustice. Injustice being born of, caught up in events that are bigger than we are, and in the face of which we are powerless. I remember well the chilling experience of a hand hovering over my father's as he went to pick up the phone while our home was being raided by the authorities. A hand which prevented him calling for assistance as he watched helplessly, the house being ransacked and his belongings destroyed. But none of this has left me bitter or with ill will towards my homeland or my countryfolk. Far from it. I retain a deep love for Iran and her people and a desire to work for reconciliation with those of other faiths and across all the divides that we create as human beings. And all of this brings me to today's debate and to Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, her husband Richard, their daughter and wider family. My Lords, resolving this situation, this great injustice, in order to reunite a family who are innocent pawns in power struggles which have nothing to do with them, resolving this requires the best of both civilizations involved, Persian and British. Iran is a land with a rich culture. It has produced some of the greatest poets, architects, artists and scientists over its long and distinguished history. At the time of King Cyrus the Great, the Persian Empire arguably gave birth to the notion of religious tolerance. Cyrus was king of Persia in the 6th century BCE. Having conquered Babylon and liberated the Jews from captivity, he decreed that the temple be rebuilt in Jerusalem, so that any Jews choosing to return could worship freely. Cyrus modelled a way for people of difference to live alongside one another in peace, and the Cyrus Cylinder or Charter still stands as a statement, as a testament to this ideal in the British Museum today. And British civilization, too, is built on principles of compassion, tolerance and justice. These are thoroughly British values from which I and many other refugees, immigrants and asylum seekers have benefited over the years. But, my Lords, at their heart, compassion and justice and tolerance are more than words. To have their fullest meaning, they must be lived, demonstrated in deed as well as word. In the case of Nazanin, we must now see these principles enacted. We need meaningful action which demands of both countries involved that they draw on the best of their traditions. The British government has acknowledged that this country owes a debt to Iran, which is now 40 years overdue. This is not, as has already been said, ransom money. It's a long-standing obligation. The payment of this debt would demonstrate something crucial about how Britain chooses to play her part in the world, with integrity and decency, with honesty and trustworthiness. And if Britain fulfills her obligations, then Iran too must act from the best of her traditions, which exemplify beauty, honour, truth and respect. Finally, Nazanin and indeed other British Persian dual nationals, amongst them Anusha Ashuri and Murad Tahbaz, these are embroiled in a great injustice not of their own making, and in the face of which they are utterly powerless. There are, however, powers at play which can effect change that could right this terrible wrong. I urge the noble Lord, the Minister, to use what authority he has to help unlock this intractable situation by paying the debt owed so that justice may roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream.
My Lords, it is a pleasure to be able to congratulate the Right Reverend Prelate, the Lord Bishop of Chelmsford, on her excellent maiden speech and to welcome her to this House. She brings an extraordinary array of talents, including, I'm pleased to see, academic and musical distinction, and a unique set of experiences as a member of a persecuted church in Iran, as we've heard, having suffered huge family trauma at the time of the Iranian Revolution, arriving in the UK as a refugee, and then building a life of service in the church here. We will learn a lot, as I'm sure noble lords will agree, from her contributions